If you've done much work on cars and trucks, you'd know that there are several types of clamps that are commonly used. One of the most common is your basic gear clamp, and then we step up to a T-bolt clamp, and then getting to the top of the line here, we have a spring-loaded T-bolt clamp. Each one of these clamps is good. However, in certain applications, one is going to be better than the next. Here we have your common gear clamp, which is okay for radiator hoses and for heater hoses, but in those particular applications, it may not be the one that you really want to use. Here we have your typical piece of polyethylene pipe, which is used in irrigation systems, and the typical barbed fitting that it goes over. In this application, your gear clamp is absolutely perfect, and you can use it with total confidence. Here's another good example of what can happen when you use a gear clamp on a rubber hose. What you see here is that the gear cuts in the band of the clamp have actually dug in to the material of the hose. Another problem you get is when the cuts in the band dig into the hose material itself, they prevent the hose from moving. And as you know, most hoses are in situations that go from hot to cold, etc., and you don't want this to happen if the hose needs to move a little bit. While you're in the process of tightening a gear type clamp on a typical piece of rubber tubing, and the cuts in the band of the clamp dig themselves into the tubing material, the clamp becomes fixed in place, and now it's unable to apply uniform pressure around the circumference of the tube. Once again, in the case of this bypass hose, which by the way happens to be fiber reinforced, you can see where the clamp has actually dug in to the rubber material of the hose. And in addition, you can envision how if that continues to get into the hose material, it can actually begin to fray the fabric. Add to this the fact that your typical gear type clamp is only 12.7 millimeters or 1/2 inch in width. So the force that the clamp is applying is only spread out across a minimal area. Now let's take a look at our typical T-bolt clamp. And this particular Tech Team clamp has a band that is a full 19 millimeters or 3/4 of an inch in width, as opposed to the 12.7 millimeter 1/2 inch width of your typical gear clamp. What this means is the clamping force of the clamp is spread out over 50% more area. This makes for a much more efficient clamp contact and subsequently sealing. Tech Team clamps use a 10 millimeter or 3/8 inch hex lock nut for tightening. This ensures that you can get adequate torque tightening the clamp and it will never come loose. The clamps have a rolled edge to prevent gouging and digging into the hose surface. In addition, they are triple spot welded at both points where the fittings need to be secured. These can really be torqued down to provide superior performance in high pressure applications. Since the clamps do not dig into the hose material, they provide 360 degrees of uniform tension. Tech Team's T-bolt clamps, otherwise known as racing clamps, are made from number 304 stainless steel. This will provide many years of high performance service. We now move upscale a little bit to Tech Team's spring-loaded T-bolt clamp. This provides all of the great features of our regular T-bolt clamps, except that with the addition of a high tension spring, this clamp will maintain uniform tension throughout its entire service life, even when the hose or tubing shrinks or swells. Okay, just to summarize, your gear clamp, which is okay, will get you by and will work great in irrigation type applications. Your basic T-bolt clamp will give superior performance across a wide range of applications where there's high pressure and a long service life is required. This has all the great features of our regular T-bolt clamp, and the high tension spring means that this will provide uniform tension throughout the life of the clamp, even if the hose of the tubing shrinks or swells due to temperature conditions.